reading from Paul's letter to the Philippians, chapter 1, beginning at verse 3. St. Paul writes, I thank my God every time I remember you, constantly praying with joy in every one of my prayers for all of you, because of sharing in the gospel from the first day until now. I am confident of this, that the one who began a good work among you will bring it to completion by the day of Jesus Christ. It is right for me to think this way about all of you, because you hold me in your heart. For all of you share in God's grace with me, both in my imprisonment and in the defense and confirmation of the gospel. For God is my witness, how I long for all of you with the compassion of Christ Jesus. And this is my prayer, that your love may overflow more and more with the knowledge and full insight to help you to determine what is best, so that in the day of Christ you may be pure and blameless, having produced the harvest of righteousness that comes through Jesus Christ for the glory and praise of God. This is the word of the Lord. Thanks be to God. A story is told of a young English pastor who served a small congregation, and it was his custom at evening services to administer the sacrament of the Lord's Supper to any parishioners who remained at the conclusion of the service. One night, so few people stayed that he questioned whether the sacrament should be observed. But he decided to proceed, and in the midst of the liturgy, he read the part of the great thanksgiving that says, Therefore, with angels and archangels and all the company of heaven, we laud and magnify thy glorious name. He paused, and then he read it again. With angels and archangels and the whole company of heaven. And then he prayed, Lord God, forgive me. I did not realize I was in such company. When we gather together as God's people, yes, we are in the company of angels and archangels, the company of heaven, the company of all who have gone before us, and so many more, who in many ways paved the way for us and upon whose shoulders we now stand, and even those who will come after us. We are in such a company whenever we gather as God's people to worship God and praise God's name. This is the first gift we receive in the sacrament of holy baptism, to live among God's faithful people. Living among God's faithful people is a gift. It's not a requirement, but it is a gift. And this gift of God's faithful people promises to support and pray for the newly baptized. Just as the presiding minister says in the baptismal liturgy, people of God, do you promise to support and pray for the newly baptized in their new life in Christ? And the church responds, we do, and we ask God to help and guide us. Having community is a gift. It is a promise and a reality that we are never alone. We are surrounded by the support and prayers of others. And of course, God is present. In these verses from Paul's letter to the Philippians, Paul is just gushing with appreciation and thanks for this community. They have been a source of support and inspiration and encouragement for Paul as he is in prison. And as Paul is in prison and perhaps in need of some assistance, like financial support, moral support, prayer support, the Philippian church takes risks to defend the gospel and to show their love and care for Paul. Think about it. Prison, a prison cell. Could there be a more isolating and lonely place than a prison cell? And as that prison cell is real for Paul, the real thing, we all know that there are different kinds of prisons in which people find themselves through their own choices, through their own decisions, through their own actions, or through circumstances beyond their control. The point is, there are times and situations where one can feel isolated, lonely, cut off, and despairing. And yet, in Paul's situation, as reported in this letter, he receives assurance and is connected to the church community in Philippi by their prayers, by their love, by their gracious caring. It is their continued sharing of the gospel that gives Paul his deepest joy, even though he is in prison. Now, it's important to note who Paul is actually thanking as we read verse 3. Paul writes, "I thank my God every time I remember you." Paul is not thanking the church at Philippi. Sure, the members of the church there are doing many things, proclaiming the gospel, praying for Paul, providing financial support, sending words of encouragement. But Paul is thanking God for what God is doing through them. Paul is thanking God for placing the church there in Philippi. Paul is thanking God for placing the church in Paul's life. That even though he is separated from them, they are still a source of strength and support and encouragement and perseverance and endurance and love and compassion while he is in prison. And while Paul is thankful and grateful for the Christians in Philippi, his utmost greatness, his utmost gratefulness is toward God, because God put the church there. In other words, the church is God's gracious gift to Paul. What that means is that we are a gift to each other. To live among God's faithful people is not only a baptismal gift that God gives to each of us, but each of us is a baptismal gift that God gives to others. You are a gift that God gives to others. This giftedness goes far beyond individual congregations, and most recently we are seeing this lived out in the Ukrainian churches being sanctuaries of hope for their people, other European churches being sanctuaries of safety for refugees, as well as churches around the world giving donations and sharing resources to give help and hope to those who have been traumatized and devastated by war. God put all these faith communities, these churches, where they are, and the baptism gift of living among God's faithful people is a way that we participate in sharing our resources and proclaiming the gospel with our words and our deeds, even when we are halfway around the world. We are collecting money in our coin cans, which are on the table outside the door, through this Lenten season, and it's designated for Lutheran World Relief to help Ukrainian refugees. Again, we can do that here, and it affects people around the world. But let's also look at how this gratefulness to God for what God has given us can also be expressed on a smaller but no less important scale. In other words, let's break it down a little bit and let's get personal. Think about the people that God has given to you to know and to love and to care for, or people who know and love and care for you. When's the last time, if ever, you have said to a spouse or a family member or a good friend or neighbor or coworker, I thank God for you. I thank God for you. I'm sure you've said thank you for things they have done, or you have said thank you for them being just who they are. But to thank God for them is a reminder that God has given them to you as a gift. So to be sure, there are times when the church claims its inheritance, when it shines with the grace and compassion and hope that is larger than itself, as if we are indeed the body of Christ, the hands and heart of Christ himself at work in the world, comforting the grieving, caring for the sick, feeding the hungry, helping the poor, proclaiming the good news. Indeed, when the church is the church, it's as if God is fully present and revealed in our very midst. And yet, we also know that there are times that make us wonder what God was thinking in entrusting this work and mission to a group of people made up of us. But to you ordinary folks, to all us ordinary folk, ordinary people, people like us, people that God has called through the waters of baptism to love God and to love neighbor, God has given to us the work of ministry, even when we fail or fall short of what we have been called to be and to do as the body of Christ. And in God's gift of community, God also gives us the means of confession and forgiveness, and God raises us up to newness, to empower and to inspire us to be who God has called us to be. A gift, not only to each other, but to the world. And finally, then, I want to lift up that there have been times in my life when I believe I have encountered God and experienced God's presence in meditation and in prayer through a mystical and transcendent experience. But if I am completely honest with myself and honest with you, the truth is, the times that I experience God's presence the most, or the times that I see God at work most fully and completely, is, well, it's through you. It's through you, God incarnate, God at work in flesh and blood, through you and what you do as you live your baptisms every day as a community of Jesus followers, living among God's faithful people and reaching out into the world with the love of Jesus Christ. Dear friends in Christ, I don't say it often enough, but I thank God for you. And I thank God for what God is doing through you. And through us, together, as we share the good news, not only are we a gift to each other, but a gift to the world. Go and live it. Thanks be to God.